There's less than a month left of open enrollment if you want your coverage to start January 1st. And when it comes to choosing what benefits to sign up for, the latest data from ADP shows that age plays a major role. Joining us now, we've got Tina Wang, who's ADP's Vice President of HR. Great to have you here on the screen with us on the show. All right, so what are the benefits that all generations should agree on, Tina?
So one of the things we definitely see in our employee pulse survey that ADP does consists about 1,700 responses from either business owners or HR decision makers. And part of that is for traditional benefits, it is medical, dental, and vision. So those three definitely come into play in terms of, regardless, I'll say, of generation, that is most desired in that aspect.
So with all of this in mind, how have you seen this kind of differ among generations, and what generations have looked for as they are signing up during this open enrollment period, and what they're prioritizing within their coverages?
So I would say those three traditional for sure come up, but the other non-traditional benefits that come into play are around mental health, learning and development, and paid leave. And in each generation, they may be weighted slightly differently in terms of, I'll say, what's most desired, but they're all showing up as things that they definitely want.
And so all of these things in mind, it seems like, especially among the new cohort of workers that are just getting into the labor force and participating, they're also looking for vastly different types of benefits than their generations prior. What are some of the main differences that you've seen there?
So we see a little bit of the mental health benefits, whether it's providing certain resources for them to focus on from a mental health perspective, the learning and development options in terms of growing their career path within an organization. And I probably would add the educational, I'll say the tuition reimbursement options, as well as they learn to continue to, I'll say, develop in their careers.
This one's a little bit more self-centered for my millennial friends out there, mid-career millennials, maybe starting a family. What's important to them?
So three things that are showing up are paid family leave, child and elder care, as well as life insurance. And I'll just share quickly, like for me, I'm in that selfish zone as well. I am actually in the process of having a family member that just suffered from a stroke. So that elder care benefit is definitely something that is important in terms of how we navigate that.
Absolutely. And finally here, we got to think about the boomers. Can't leave them out of this conversation. What benefits are they looking for?
So definitely focusing a little bit more on their retirement benefits. So they're a little bit less on the benefit selections as much as how do they prepare, in terms of moving out of the workforce at some point in time.
How can employers also educate themselves on what new offerings they should be bringing to their employees, as so many of the new services that may get prioritized by different generations are thought of and asked for by some of the employees? How can employers educate themselves as well?
Yeah, so look, I think it's really important to make sure you partner and have partnerships with either, payroll, your insurance agent, your retirement partners. They really understand what is out there and what's available for an organization to think about, like what they can afford and what they can provide for their employees. In addition, I would also say that, asking the employees, so if you are part of an organization, whether you're a small business or a large organization, really having those conversations with your employees to understand, hey, what is it that you're interested in? What else is out there? And in addition, how do we educate? And because open enrollment is a one-time, event, and it shouldn't be. Like that ongoing conversation around education of benefits that are relevant, that I'll say employees may not think are relevant, but will be relevant at some point in time because something may happen. And again, I'll just share a quick story for me. Like I ended up in, not signing up for long-term insurance. And it turns out I ended up in a car accident, and I actually could have really benefited in terms of understanding what some of those things may happen.
Wow, absolutely. Well, glad to see that you're doing well. Glad you could join us here today. Just lastly, before we let you go, Tina, this is a common mistake. People forgetting about Gen X out there, and I don't want the smoke from Gen X on Twitter or Facebook or whatever platforms they're using. They're probably microblogging somewhere. But all these things considered, what is Gen X looking for and prioritizing?
So I probably would tell you that it's probably looking a little bit more at the life stage, like a Gen X and I'll say the millennials are probably in that mid-career stage, right? So things like the paid family leave, the childcare, the life insurance for non-traditional benefits do come into play.
All right, Tina, great to have you here. Tina Wang, who is ADP's Vice President of HR. Thanks so much for hopping on with us.
Thank you, Brad.